Hello, freak bitches.
Yeah, I've spent a year on porn sets. I've been
Just research. Just research.
It was a lot. My wife did say to me once or twice, "Do you really have to go to another porn set?" I've just finished making a series for Audible called The Butterfly Effect, and the flap of the butterfly's wings, which I'm tracing throughout the series, is this young man called Fabian, who's like a tech nerd in Brussels, and he has the idea to get rich from giving the world free porn, so free streaming porn. So the series is about the kind of tech takeover of porn in the Valley.
Doesn't he know that that's already real?
Oh no,
this porn's everywhere.
Yeah, no, that was back in the day. That was like in the 90s.
Oh,
so
okay.
Fabian gave the world PornHub.
Okay.
And
so it's fiction.
No, this is all true. Let me go back.
Okay.
So in the 90s,
right,
this kid called Fabian Fabian Tillman, so a young boy in Brussels, like a tech nerd, would go on CompuServe and swap porn passwords, so get porn for free, which is how people got porn for free back in the 90s. And then he had like a sort of eureka moment, which is I can give the world YouTube for porn.
Right.
So he bought up this fledgling company in Montreal called, it was called Mamsef at the time. It was run by these two brothers up in Montreal, and they had just invented PornHub. Fabian bought up PornHub, and then kind of overnight, single-handedly took over the Valley. It's an extraordinary story. This massive flow of money went from where we are now in the Valley, a community of people who were making pretty good money from porn. The money just flowed into Fabian's pocket. Because what Fabian did was, look, if you're a porn star and you go to a bank and say, "Can I have a checking account?"
Did you say a porn star or a porn stir?
I said a porn star, but actually there aren't really many porn stars anymore. If you're a porn person and you go to a bank and you say, "Can I have a checking account?" the bank manager will usually say no, because you're in porn, which means you're disreputable.
Really?
Yes.
Wait a minute.
People like Stoya have written about this a lot, about how they found it really hard to get mortgages, how they found it hard to get checking accounts.
But checking accounts? That seems unlikely. I mean, I would believe that maybe mortgages, they would think that your business is fairly unstable. That kind of makes sense as far as an investment's concerned.
And also the idea that other customers might not like the idea that their high street bank is being shared with somebody who's in porn.
Really?
Yeah, it's called reputational risk.
Wow, that seems really dumb to me.
Yeah,
that doesn't make any sense at all.
Right, well, sure. But Fabian was making money from running a site that dealt in piracy. So basically, fans would upload porn illegally onto PornHub.
Mm-hmm.
So Fabian was running a site that was filled with pirated content. Fabian went to a bank to say, "I want to expand." But because he wasn't ostensibly a porn person, he was a tech person who was deemed to be respectable, this bank gave him a $362 million loan to expand, to build an empire based in part on the handling of stolen porn. So he went to the Valley, who were already kind of paranoid that all their porn was being stolen and put up onto PornHub, and he bought up all the, loads of companies at cut price,
right?
Because the companies were panicking and wanted to sell, and suddenly Fabian just single-handedly took over porn. And nobody cares about that. Nobody was thinking about the consequences of that, because Fabian was giving the world what they wanted, which was free porn. But I was really curious to know, what were the consequences?
Let me pause there. You said no one cares about it. No, but a lot of people did. It was a huge issue. And there was a lot of, moral debate
about whether streaming porn.
Well, there was a lot of the girls that were in porn that were really pissed off because they weren't making any money anymore, and there was a lot of social media posts about it, imploring people to stop using these sites, which no one listened to.
Exactly. I mean, porn people cared, but porn consumers didn't care.
Well, it was an interesting tech, like a moral tech debate that was going on for a while. But the debate is lost. I mean, there was it's really interesting because there was a guy who lived down the street from me, and he was a big time porn producer. And I actually knew him from my jiu-jitsu class, and he was a real high-rolling sort of character. Like, he always had this beautiful Mercedes-Benz, and he wore these really big watches, a lot of, fancy clothes, and he was just making just tons of money. And he had this beautiful house, and he was just this baller character.
Right.
And then it all dried up.
It all dried up.
I mean, it dried
Fabian.
up quick.
Yeah, it all went into Fabian's
He lost his
pocket.
house. His house got repossessed.
Yeah, and Fabian got so rich because of this, because the money went from your friend's pocket into Fabian's pocket. Fabian got so rich that
But how's he getting rich off of free streaming? So the ads? Is that
because,
what it is?
partly because of ads, but partly because he bought up the paid sites as well. So, because the paid sites were like panicking because they were losing all their money to piracy. So he just bought up everything. So he bought up the competition, he bought up RedTube, he bought up YouPorn. So he bought up all the competition to PornHub, but he also bought loads of paid sites, including like Playboy TV. So your friend got so poor that his house got repossessed. Fabian got so rich that he installed in his house an aquarium that was so big that a diver had to come every week and dive in and clean the coral reef.
Wow.
You know you're doing well when you get your own diver.
That's weird.
Yeah. So, yeah, you're right. Porn people cared a lot, but the outside world didn't care because, the outside world doesn't care when music's getting pirated. So they sure as hell don't care when it's porn.
Well, they care a little bit about the music thing, but the porn thing got almost no traction. And when the porn industry essentially, for the most part, collapsed, or at least there was a massive amount of loss, there was no talk about like some sort of a bailout or anything silly like that. I was like, no, that industry's gone.
Right, exactly.
Many other industries were bailed out.
And when you look at their
far smaller.
Right. When you look at their headquarters up in Montreal, the company that owned PornHub, it's not porny, it's techie. So you walk in. Fabian actually said to me quite tellingly, he said, he said it was amazing. You wouldn't even know that we were in porn unless you went to the wrong floor.
Now, he seems like a guy who's well aware of his crime.
Yeah, I mean, Fabian would say, if it wasn't me, it would be somebody else.
What does that mean? That sounds like a good thing to say after you kill somebody.
Right. And he'd say it's progress. He'd call it progress.
But he's a criminal. I mean, it's essentially, he's lucky that he's dealing in pirated stuff, right?
The one time Fabian got annoyed with me, he was quite game. Like I wanted to interview him, and then I wanted to travel to the valley to look at the consequences and trace consequence through to consequence. Like, where would I end up if I just... Because I think people don't think about consequences on the internet that much. They want to just, destroy somebody and then carry on with their day.
Right.
So I want to tell a story about consequences. The only time Fabian got annoyed with me was when either me or Mike Quasar, director, said to him, you uploaded pirated porn. And he said, no, I didn't. I have never uploaded pirated porn. I offer a service in which other people can upload pirated porn. And if they tell us to take it down, we'll take it down. But
they have to find it.
They have to find it. And also, there's so much fucking free porn on PornHub that it's like cutting down a forest with a butter knife. It's impossible to... Yeah, you can say, take down my pirated porn. They'll say, okay, sorry, fine. But then there's like a million other people's free porn up there. Anyway, so actually it's funny. I don't, by the way, what I'm about to say shouldn't be construed as me saying that I think that Fabian is a psychopath, because I don't. But that thing about not taking responsibility for your own actions, I just remembered I wrote a book a few years ago about psychopaths called The Psychopath Test. And a psychopathic trait is that, like if somebody kills somebody in a bar, they would say, well, it's his fault for looking at me funny. So failure to accept responsibility for own actions is one of the 20 items on the psychopath checklist.
Do you think that he's a psychopath, or do you think it's some sort of a convenient neglecting of a certain responsibility for what happened?
I don't think Fabian, that was very much a tangential thing, because I don't think Fabian is a psychopath at all. But I think that tech people have created a sort of amoral bubble around themselves. I talked to the head of PornHub's mobile division. So if you've ever watched, he's called Brandon. If you've ever watched PornHub on your mobile. You have Brandon to thank. And I said to Brandon said, like, we never, like 99% of PornHub employees never set foot on a porn set. And he said, that's good because, we're designing, we're search engine people. We're, we don't want to say, it would be sort of unpleasant to set foot on a porn set. It would be sort of intimidating and unpleasant. And I said, well, maybe it would have been good if more Pornhub people did set foot on porn sets because you would be able to see the negative consequences of your business plan. And Brendan went, their livelihood, which again is a very techie thing to say, right? Because it's all about progress.
Their livelihood?
Yeah.
What does he mean by that?
Like, okay, now you want to talk about their livelihood.
Their livelihood, the people.
Yeah,
but I mean, they're
people.
essentially like a content provider that's not paying for any content.
Yeah. And, so, I just remembered a guy called David Lowry, he's interested in kind of piracy issue in music. And he said, when we look back on the dystopian movies of the 1930s, when, machines would take over, like Metropolis or something, like the moral of the film, like the climax of the film is when the people, the humans, say, we're not going to live in a world run by machines. We're going to defeat the machines and human morality will take over. But now that machines are ruling the world, instead of us defeating the machines, we are adapting our morality to fit in with the machine's capability. So because it is easy to pirate, instead of saying, let's not pirate, we're just adapting our morality and saying, oh, okay, we can watch pirated porn, it's fine.
Yeah, but it's not as simple as pirating, because pirating is what everybody does on, when they're sharing it through message boards or, what have you. That's sort of pirating, right? When they're uploading it to these websites and servers and stuff. But what he's doing is massively profiting off of other people's work. It's a little bit of more of a gray area.
Yeah, I'd say so. He's
not even gray. It's kind of dark.
Well, he certainly profited hughtly from other people pirating, their favourite porn films onto his site.
Has he been sued?
He got arrested for tax evasion, and that's how he got out of the business eventually. But I think that all got solved. I'm not sure if he ever got sued. Like, because if somebody said to him, like, take down my Bad Babysitters Volume 2 is mine. I say that because I was actually on the set of Bad Babysitters Volume 2. He'd say, oh, sure, yeah, sorry, of course. And it would go down. But then maybe somebody else would put it up later that day or, it didn't matter because everything else was free. Wow. I'll tell you one amazing consequence of all of this, though. So what I wanted to do in this Audible series, The Butterfly Effect, was to kind of trace the consequences of this. Like, what was the tornadoes that were being created. And one amazing consequence is, like, Fabian surrounded himself with tech wizards, like people who knew how the internet worked, including a lot of search engine people. So instead of making porn films like they made in the 90s, this porn director, Mike Quasar, said to me that the first film he ever made back in the 90s was called Women of Influence. Now, all the porn films have to be easily searchable. It's like a kind of arms race of search engine optimization, like to get yourself up the Google rankings. So all the porn films in the Valley aren't called Women of Influence, because how do you search for that? They basically see what the most popular search terms are and then make films based on that. So Mike Quasar was telling me this on the set of the film he was shooting that day, which was Stepdaughter Cheerleader Orgy. So I said to him, it's just around the corner from here. So I said to Mike, because I thought about like Women of Influence versus Stepdaughter Cheerleader Orgy. Mm-hmm. And look, I haven't seen Women of Influence. So for all I know, the moral of Women of Influence is that women shouldn't have influence. But my guess is that Women of Influence is a more kind of holistic porn film than Stepdaughter Cheerleader Orgy. So I said to Mike, are there any people in the Valley who can't get work because they're just not a keyword? And Mike went, yeah, like every adult porn actress now between the ages of 23 and 29 can't get work because they're not a teen and they're not a MILF. They're like in this sort of fallow period between teen and MILF when they're just attractive, and just attractive isn't a searchable term. So if you're not a teen and you're not a MILF, if you're like a 26-year-old adult film actress, you can't get work. You just have to I said to Mike, what do? Do you just like sit there until you like become a MILF and become employable again? And the answer is they have to find other ways to make money. So escorting is going through the roof in the Valley. Because of the tech, because of people like Fabian, because of the tech takeover of porn, escorting's going through the roof. But also another thing that's going through the roof is this kind of weirdly adorable world of bespoke porn.
Yeah, and that's what the article. What was the publication? Who published that article?
It was The Guardian. I did like a written version of one of the episodes of the show.
I just stumbled upon it, knowing that you were going to be here. I didn't even know you wrote it. I was reading it, and as I was reading it, I was like, "Oh, John wrote this."
Right? Isn't it? What an amazing! Did you know about this world?
No.
And you're right in Pornland here, right in the Valley. So yeah, it's a pretty hidden world.
Fascinating. Explain what it is. Like, people literally will request some of the most bizarre things. Yeah. And these people will make custom films based on their weird kinks.
Just for them, like a team of professional porn people. Because the Valley's suffering so much because of PornHub and so on. Wow. We'll make an entire porn film just for you.
Now, how much does something like this cost? Like, say if you want to make a film about girls wearing Mutant Ninja Turtle outfits who kick guys in the balls. Like, that's entirely possible, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, anything's possible.
But that sounds like something that might actually sell.
Oh, yeah. They're like a couple of $1,000.
That's it?
Yeah.
Couple grand?
Yeah.
Wow.